Well, let's get more on this, and we can speak now to Dr. Samir Al-Taki, who is a researcher at the Middle East Institute. He joins us from Washington. Dr. Al-Taki, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Al Arabiya English. Can I just start by asking you for your understanding on the ceasefire? From what you're hearing and what you're seeing, does it appear to be holding?
Thank you very much for inviting me or for making me allowed to participate with you. Actually, till now, things are holding. Still, there are some skirmishes here and there, especially in the eastern area, with the withdrawal of the pro-governmental forces. Maybe they are not regular forces. Actually, there have been some killings and attacks on some civilian in the area. But still, I think it's we can say that the situation is disengaging, and we can say that, yes, things are going toward a better situation at the level of the civilian life. And now people are able to go to see their relatives, to have a look at their homes, etc. So I think things are better, practically.
Okay, and I mean, there is this narrative from Israel that they are trying to defend the Druze people, a minority in Syria. We had a guest on this channel yesterday who said that Israel feels very strongly about defending the Druze. I'm just wondering what you read into that, and whether you think there is gratitude on the part of the Druze people for this defense by the Israelis of their cause.
I think if you go to Suweida, which is practically the Syrian capital for the Druzes, actually you will see entering there lots of the monuments indicating the Syrian Druze martyrs who had been killed fighting the Druzes. The current situation now is as such. I think first of all, the Israelis had made an agreement with the current Syrian government regarding the presence of the Syrian forces, especially the heavy armament, to be set far away, about 80 kilometers north of Damascus. They are not allowed beyond this line, actually, till the Golan borders. This is one concern. The other concern, I think, for the Israelis is regarding the presence of jihadi Islamist factions that do not necessarily identify themselves as part of the Syrian army, but still they are acting and they are loyal to this current Syrian government. So in this respect, the Israelis are saying that they have concerns regarding those people. And the third factor, of course, is the Druze factor, where there is about 500,000 Druzes, I think. I know 170,000 Druzes in Israel. Some of them are well involved in the Israeli army and the IDF. So I think there are multiple factors that pushed the Israelis for this action. The main factor, I think, is that they feel that the agreement that had been achieved in Azerbaijan, Baku, hadn't been respected regarding the presence of heavy armament in the south, and of course the pressure of the Druzes, which was one of the conditions of the Israelis regarding the ceasefire and beginning a certain process for the withdrawal of their forces. One of the conditions was not to allow the Syrian forces to enter forcibly in Suweida and in the areas of what we call Jabal al-Arab, or the mountain of the Arabs, the main stronghold of the Druzes. So actually, the latest development from the Israeli side is calming down now, but still the situation is very, very, very tense.
Yeah, we've heard from the Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara, saying that Israel is trying to divide the Syrian people, but nevertheless, he said he was going to proceed with this ceasefire agreement. I mean, do you think there is a risk that Israel's involvement in Syria's affairs and its perceived defense of the Druze risks further deepening sectarian fault lines in the country?
Of course, I think the main task now really facing the Syrian government is to open a real dialogue among the different components of the Syrian society. There had been the fabric of the Syrian society had been totally shattered during the totalitarian regime of the Assad, and the regime was really inciting the confessional and sectarian divide. And I think unless the Syrian government heads toward a serious and not forceful negotiation with the Syrian components, without that, the Syrian situation will continue to be precarious. We have now pressures from Turkey asking the Syrian army to clash with the Kurds in the north. So all surrounding countries do have their share and interest in what's going on. Would it be Israel? Would it be Turkey? Would it be Iraq? And other, or the Russians, of course. So all those forces are maybe waiting for seeing whether the Syrians will be able to forge a kind of national unity among the different components, a kind of a decentralized state that would allow the build up of the mutual confidence among the components. So I think, yes, Israel can harm the task for a political dialogue, but still the main responsibility is for the Syrian government to open a serious, peaceful dialogue with the components that would allow really a real Syrian unity and allow the possibility of a national internal peace. I think this is a condition to block the different kind of interventions from different neighbors or international powers.
Okay, I mean, I'm asking you this next question really for the benefit of international viewers who might not know very much about the Druze. I mean, after all, there's only around 1.1, 1.2 million Druze people in the entire world, most of them in Syria, also in Lebanon, also in Israel. The Druze don't all speak with one voice, do they? And we've heard, for example, the rejection of the ceasefire. That came from one Druze community leader by the name of Hekmat al-Hijiri. He rejected it. But I'm just wondering, who is the one legitimate voice, or is there a legitimate voice that speaks for all the Druze, or at least a majority of the Druze people? Actually,
there is a very powerful intellectual and civil society movement among the Druze. And those people were fighting peacefully this previous regime. And now they have a real important say in what's going on. And they were those who really opened a dialogue with the Syrian regime, trying to overcome even to overcome the many obstacles that had been raised by the negotiators. But so at the end of the day, the massacres that happened, there had been about 10 small and really bigger massacres. All massacres are equal at the end of the day. But yes, there had been about 10 massacres. And those acts practically united the Druze together. And they are now willing to go toward a ceasefire. But still, there are some suspicious people who are seeing the presence of the armed forces loyal to the Syrian regime, not necessarily regular forces, still in the area. So, yes, the situation is very precarious. And I think the position now is still, we can understand it in terms of, a synchronized position among the Druze. Some of them will accept, the others will be suspicious, just to keep their their options open rather than a real divide, because at the end of the day, facing those dangers, practically their vision became much more than before. They united much more than before. That's why I think now what we are witnessing is that the Druses, who are a kind of a religious entity that could be affiliated to Islam, but practically they have their origins in many messages sent by their sheikhs from the Hindu culture, the Buddhist culture, and even the Greek culture. So it's a kind of maybe closer to the Buddhism rather than anything else. Still, they are considered to be Muslims and monotheist. At the end of the day, this could be a detail in this situation, but they are quite a coherent socio-economic entity in Syria, and they have a system of solidarity, social solidarity, and even organizational solidarity, which is quite powerful in spite of their relatively small percentage of the Syrian population.
Yeah, indeed. They're about 3% of the Syrian population. But to go back to what you were saying earlier about some sort of national dialogue between the Syrian leadership and the leaders of other minorities in the country, let's focus obviously on the Druze. Who would you expect to be representing the Druze in such a dialogue? Who are the key figures that you would expect to be sitting across the table from President Ashara or his delegates on this subject of national unity?
I think the Druses would be able to unify themselves under some kind of, we can imagine a kind of a delegation that could include Mr. Bal'ous and other religious leaders. But the Druses are, generally speaking, they are very secular, and so they affiliate themselves more to many Sunni secular that are maybe not in harmony with the current Syrian regime. So I think the secular side, which is called the Sahat al-Karama, the place of dignity, which used to be a square in Suweida, where they gathered every week against the previous Syrian regime. I think this coalition of different secular forces among the Druses is very powerful, and we can imagine them also to have a major role in the mediation, in the negotiations, bridging the gaps. I think this could be quite an important force among the Druses also.
And it was quite interesting to look at the scenes from Suweida, and particularly when the border fence was penetrated by Druze people on both sides from Golan, which is annexed by Israel, and people on the Syrian side. There were reunions of families that were completely cut off from one another. And I just want to ask you about the Druze who live in Golan, because I gather there's 22,000 permanent Druze residents in Golan, and yet only 1,600 of them have taken up the offer of Israeli citizenship. And I'm just wondering how you think those Druze in Golan, which is controlled by Israel, feel about Israel. Do they feel more Israeli? Do they feel more Druze, or would they sort of feel neither?
It's controversial to a large extent. Actually, the Druses, as I said, they used to have to play a major and important role in the Syrian army and fought fiercely against the Israeli army. I'm speaking about the Syrian Druses. So about the Golan Druses, I think the fact that they have now a peaceful life under Israel, they were not involved in the the civil war along more than 14 years, that lasted more than 14 years. And also, maybe they became more and more, let's say, loyal or accepting the Israeli relation. And at the end of the day, I think the main factor here is the factional divide, the confessional divide in Syria that made them feel that when somebody comes to kill you, you do not ask his identity. You just find somebody neighboring you that would be ready to help you. And here, there, especially the Golan Druses, they have really familial, first-degree familial relations with the Druses in Suweida, and some of them did have their direct relatives killed in the massacres that happened by the pro-regime forces. They are not maybe regular forces, but they were pro-regime forces. So they see the confessional jihadi propaganda in Syria very much a danger for their relatives. And that's why they were maybe more than 3 months ago ready to intervene and try to defend their relatives. And that's what had happened practically. Still, I think there is another regulating factor. As I said, Sahat al-Karama, the square of dignity, people are trying to calm down and not to allow things to become a kind of pro-Israeli movement among the Druses. Of course, the scene is very much, like a moving sand now in Syria. And because of the atrocities, people could change their camps because of their familial and fear makes lots of change in the Syria and in the people's mind, actually.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time, but really appreciate you speaking to us. Dr. Samir Al-Thaqi, researcher at the Middle East Institute. Thank you very much indeed for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.